Hello students! In this activity, we will be thinking about how a tick might survive the freezing temperatures of winter, and how insulating materials play a crucial role in providing shelter for that tick. First, we will go out and explore a natural environment on a below freezing temperature day, and we will try to find places in that natural environment where a tick might find temperatures that are above freezing. Then we will be designing and building our own shelters that could hypothetically house a tick, and we will be putting them to the test by performing the ice cube test. All right, so we're outside and we're going to try to find some spots where the temperature is much higher than the temperature in the air out here. So first of all, I'm going to take a temperature reading in the shade here in the open air, and that'll be our temperature that we're going to compare everything else to. It's a blue sky day. It's pretty cold and windy, a lot of snow on the ground. And anyway, so I've got my trusty thermometer here. The probe has been hanging out in the air for a little while, and let's see what it says. We got 21.8 degrees Fahrenheit. So well below freezing. That's pretty cold. Let's go see if we can find some spots that are warm enough, hopefully, for a tick to survive winter. All right, so the first spot that I'm going to test is this tree. Actually, I'm going to test this little hole in the tree up here. I was thinking I can wedge the thermometer probe inside one of these holes between the core of the tree and the bark. Let's try. All right, so with a little bit of difficulty, I got the thermometer wedged in. Anyway, so this is on the sunny side of this tree, and already the temperature in that bark has gone up to 32.2 degrees. So it's been in there for about a minute, and it's already gone to about freezing temperature. Could even get to be a little above freezing temperature. Okay, so this is another spot that I thought I would check. These are leaves that I raked in the fall, and now it's March and it's covered in a lot of snow. I dug about a foot down into the leaves and I put my thermometer in there and the temperature went up. So let's go check out what it is. So the temperature about a foot down in these leaves is as warm as 37.5 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's significantly above freezing temperature. I imagine that a lot of that has to do with it's a big pile of leaves and they're decomposing, getting eaten by all sorts of little bugs and bacteria. And those bugs and bacteria are converting energy from chemical form in the leaves into heat as they move around and digest. Now, we are going to see how well 3 of my friends and I can make a shelter for a tick. We each collected materials to make house-like structures that could keep a tick warm on a cold day. To test how well our shelters can insulate something from the environment, we will be placing 1 ice cube inside of the shelter and 1 ice cube just outside of the shelter exposed to the air. If the ice cube that's inside the shelter takes much longer to melt than the ice cube that's exposed to room temperature, then we know we've built an effective shelter that is insulating the ice cube. That means it's preventing transfer of heat between the inside and the outside of the shelter. All right, time to talk about our tick houses. Hannah, you're first then. So can you explain your thinking behind your design?
Yeah, so when I built my tick house, I thought, let's make it actually look like a little house. And so that's what I did. It has the 4 walls and it has a little roof that's insulated and it actually has insulated walls as well. Then it's got a little saran wrap window so you can look at your ice cube on the inside.
All right, Monica, you want to go next?
Sure. So this is my tick house. It's made of plywood because that's all I found in my lab.
You're the
And
woodworker, apparently.
very poor woodworking because it's only connected with duct tape. There's no screws really.
Nice.
So there are a few gaps and there is a pretty big window also with wrap to see what's happening inside.
Cool. All right, David, you want to show your tick house?
Yeah, so thanks, Ethan. For my tick house, I took some inspiration from the tents that we used to camp in Antarctica. This is a photo I took of one of our camps one year in Antarctica. These tents here, these ones that look like little pyramids, I slept in one of these tents. It's pretty cool. It's like a double-walled tent, and it's a really strong pyramid shape. And so that's what inspired me for my tick house. So I made a little tent for the tick, and it's pretty similar to the other folks. It was made out of cardboard, but I used aluminum foil on the inside and the outside. And I tried to double pane the window with saran wrap. So there's actually an outer layer and an inner layer separated by air. The other thing I did was I made a little bed for the ice cube. And I made a little bed because if you're ever camping in the cold, you know that you want to insulate yourself from the ground because the cold will come through the ground. So basically my ice cube just sits on here and then the tent sits on top of that, just like there.
I'll show you guys mine. So I took a cardboard box and I took like a bunch of packaging paper, you know, the type of paper that, you know, it's just used to take up space. And I also took like a toilet paper roll tube. So I put the toilet paper roll tube in the middle to hold the form for like the little, you know, where I was going to put the ice cube. And then I just stuffed a whole bunch of paper. I was kind of amazed at how much paper I could stuff into this thing. It was like, you know, a lot of paper when it was loose, and then I just kept on pressing it in there. And then over the top of it, I put a bunch of packaging tape in the hopes that it would prevent any air from circulating in there from outside. And then after I did that, I also wrapped it in this bag. This bag has a couple of tiny little holes in it, but I think it still helps.
I did record 2 different videos of my tick house because the first time I recorded it, David and I had done it together, and I put these ice cubes, I thought, in these little tea light holders, thinking it'll catch all the water, it'll be a great way to store the ice cube. And as it turns out, in the tea light holder in my tick house and on the counter, the ice cube actually melted at the same rate. And I think it's because the water filled up and just aided in melting the ice cubes. So when I recorded it later on my own, I put them on a little tinfoil bed like David had done, and my tick house actually did end up working much, much better than leaving the ice cube out on the counter. So I definitely expected the container to just work with the ice cube in it, but I would recommend tinfoil boats if you're doing this at home.
So I was expecting at first, before I designed this, that this would work really well. But when I started building it, I got lazy and left a lot of cracks, and the window's pretty big. So I knew there was a chance that they would probably melt at the same rate. But it was really cool to see, like, during the process, that as like inside the tick house, that as the ice cube melted, the temperature cooled down and the humidity went up pretty high. Yeah, it was getting cooler inside, but I don't know if the humidity was like making it also melt faster.
I think those sensors are probably measuring relative humidity, which is as a function of air temperature. And so, you know, when it's really warm, the air can hold a lot of water in it. That's why if you've ever been like in a swamp or like a really muggy, hot summer day, the air is just full of water.
It feels
And
extra hot.
exactly, yeah, it feels extra hot. And when it's really cold, the air just can't hold that much water in it. And so if you take the same parcel of air and you cool it down temperature-wise, then its relative humidity actually goes up, because we define relative humidity as a percentage of the total amount of water that air could hold.
Okay, David, expectations, results, surprises.
Yeah, I think it worked a lot better than I expected, to be honest. I was a little worried that the ice cubes were just going to both melt at the same rate. I think the surprises, probably the hardest thing was trying to make a double paned window. I had like lots of fun with Scotch tape and saran wrap, and there's like static electricity between the tape and the saran wrap would like cause the saran wrap to kind of try to float up to the tape. Yeah, or like if you've ever tried this, holding a piece of Scotch tape over a piece of saran wrap, you'll see the saran wrap will just like levitate up into the tape, which is actually quite annoying, because then that meant it all got bunched up. And so that probably took as long as the rest of the design in total. But yeah, I think it worked pretty well. I think insulating it from the ground really helps for the ice cube.
Yeah, with my experiment, it went pretty well. The control ice cube took 2 hours and 12 minutes, 2 hours and 10 minutes, roughly around there, to completely melt. And at that point in time, the test ice cube in the tick house was still had its original form. And after once the control ice cube had melted, I took the other ice cube out of the tick house, and I compared it to a fresh ice cube from my freezer. I'd estimate about 25% of the test ice cube had melted. Do you think a tick could survive winter in your house, in your tick house?
I think very comfortably they could survive winter. It's a very spacious, could be a whole tick family in there. It did pretty well in the second test. Might get a little soggy outside, might need some waterproofing, but I think overall it did pretty good.
I don't think any tick would like my house. They should choose someone else's.
Maybe they could burrow like in the little cracks or something. And
if the house is like underground, maybe.
Yeah, I think that ticks would have a great time in hanging out in the little tick bed here. You could probably put like, I don't know, 20, 30 ticks in there. So yeah, I think ticks would have no problem surviving the winter.
Yeah. I think ticks, I think they might like this. Actually, some part of my idea with this is that it'd be sort of like leaves or a tree. It's paper, so there's a similar theme there. But would they survive? I'll put it at a maybe.